Experiment 626, though.
Experiment 626.
He's the man.
He is the man. He is pretty great. He's very gremlin-like, which, I'm a big fan of. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Welcome, everyone, to Disney on the Rocks. We are your hosts. I'm Eric.
And I'm Jeff.
And as you've already heard, this week we are diving into the 2002 Hawaiian Disney hit Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, our second movie set in the Polynesian territory of the world.
Well, we figured we'd knock out Disney's entire library of Polynesian movies in one fell swoop.
Right.
Just,
get them all out
in the first 20 episodes, we're like, all right, get it done.
Yeah, and this is our 20th episode. It's our 19th movie, but 20th episode if you count our interview episode, our rebuttal episode with Hercules.
Cillian McMurphy.
Right.
The Irish shooter.
So our 19th movie that we are covering is Lilo and Stitch. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. We're excited to talk about it. It's weird. This is one that my daughter was actually very into, glued to the TV when we put it on. And when I put on the sequel, because you told me earlier that you watched all of the sequels for Lilo and Stitch, because there's a lot. They went deep into Lilo and Stitch.
I did my homework for this one. I wanted to get some perspective of what the sequels were. They're not nearly as good as the original. I don't recommend.
Are they ever
watching them? Well,
Disney's never going to make The Godfather Part 2 when it comes to their animated movies.
I mean, sometimes they're not bad. I mean, some of the Toy Story sequels I would put up there. Like Toy Story 3 might be better than the original. Toy Story 2.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's the rare exception.
So there's a couple exceptions, and we did talk about Cinderella 3 being pretty good. I mean, it's not the original, but
it's not better than the original.
But sometimes the third
with
movie
their time travel story.
It was pretty good though. So sometimes the third movie can rival. So Lilo and Stitch had a couple sequels. They came out not really in chronological order, and then they had a TV series that came from one of the sequels. And that series finale was another movie. And then they had another anime series in Japan. There's a ton of Lilo and Stitch content out there if you really need your fix.
Well, they're fun characters. Lilo is adorable and a fun character to watch. And then Stitch can do so many different things. It's really just a never-ending run of scenarios and situations that you could put Stitch into, especially with him being an alien, being able to have all these powers on Earth, and
he can't
in the
swim.
Second one,
so
he can't swim.
It's contained.
That's it.
It's contained on the island, right? They're in Hawaii. That's it. He can't leave.
Well, they do have that cool hovercraft that they use to get around.
Yeah, but how far can you really go on that thing?
I don't know. How far can you go on that thing?
What's the mileage on a single charge? I don't know if you can island.
What does it run on? Is it run on electricity? Is it like a Tesla, or is it
future alien technology, dude? Come on.
Well, once they run out of gas or fuel or whatever that alien fuel source is, the thing's as good as junk.
Well, actually, they tackle that in one of the sequels.
Oh my God! Of course they do.
So they do show that with primitive Earth technology, they can make like a fusion chamber, so they can create alien technology. Because what's his name? Brinkley is a no. He's the worm looking dude. Who's the mad scientist? What's his name?
I was just going to ask you the same thing because I was curious as to why the hell he has a Russian accent.
Well, they actually make a joke in the sequel for that as well. They say it's like he's got a weird accent. Like, where did that come from? And
yes,
it's true.
I'm going to make a little alien toy.
Yeah, why does he sound like
this
that?
Creature?
I don't know why he sounds like that, but I'm going to find out what his name is. I can't believe neither of us. We both watched the movie. I watched multiple sequels, and one of the main.
He was the one character's name. I'm like, wait, what is it? While
Jumba.
You're doing that, random thought while you're. What is it?
It's Jumba.
Jumba. Before I get into what we're drinking tonight, a random thought. So I'm watching the sequel with my daughter, and she, I guess, disliked it. I don't know if she disliked the part where Stitch smacks Lilo and scratches her face and throws her to the ground in the opening 3 minutes of the movie in a dream
it's too
sequence.
Violent.
Very violent opening, but she just lost interest very quick. So then she turned to me and said, "Can we watch the Berenstain Bears?" And so we're watching the Berenstain Bears. I downloaded a few episodes of the show for her. We read the books all the time. She wants to be a doctor when she gets big, so we have the doctor episode. And so we've been watching this a lot. And everybody knows the Bear family in the Berenstain Bears, right? There's Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Sister Bear, and Brother Bear. And I didn't realize until we watched the cartoon, but everyone outside of the family calls them Papa, Mama, Sister, and Brother. Like, the rest of the bears have names, like James Bear, or,
James Bear!
James Bear, or Kevin Bear, or Lisa Bear. Like, they all have human names, yet Papa Bear is Papa Bear to everyone. So, like, did Papa Bear's parents name him Papa as a kid? Because they go by Grandma Bear and Grandpa Bear in the books.
Yeah, maybe.
So did they name him Papa, and then he grew up and he met a girl who happened to be named Mama Bear, and then they had a son, and they anticipated they were going to have another bear, so they named him Brother Bear immediately just to get it out of the way? Like, what if they couldn't have other kids?
Yeah, what if they had another boy? It would have been Little Brother Bear?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, he couldn't have been Sister Bear.
Yeah, right.
He couldn't have just automatically anticipated Sister Bear. They called Brother Bear. Did they change his name legally to Big Brother Bear?
You'd have to,
right? It's something I don't know. It's just weird. Or are they weird? I kept thinking like Mama and Papa Bear were like a weird old couple who call each other mother and father.
Well,
you never get those. You ever see them? Oh, how's it going today, mother? It's like, oh, father, it's okay. It's like, that's weird, but people do that.
That does happen within families. I know that some families, it's like a weird thing of like, what do you call your in-laws? Like, do you call them by the first name, the last name? And once someone has kids in the family, it makes it so much easier, because then they're just like grandma, grandpa, pop, whatever you want to call them. Now you can all refer to them as that name, and you don't have to have the awkwardness of Mr. and Mrs. whatever, or calling
right.
Them the first
Well,
name.
It's funny that my mother-in-law has been staying with us through COVID and everything, and spending a lot of time at the house and staying here. So her name's Eileen, and me just being a formal person the way I was raised, before when my wife and I first started dating, I would call her Mrs. Ambler, like I would call her Mrs. And then eventually I still, even to this day, feel awkward calling her Eileen. So with my daughter being around, I'm always like, oh, well, grandma's doing this, grandma's doing that. But then sometimes where it's just me and I actually have to ask her a question or call upstairs to ask her a question, I kind of just go, hey, can you hear me? Like, I don't know. Like, it's like an awkward thing. I don't want to go, hey, Eileen. Like, I feel weird doing that.
But you could just say, hey, grandma, and she'll answer.
Yeah, I should just go, hey, grandma. Like, maybe I'm the weird one. I don't know.
You're definitely the weird one, because you have an out and you're not taking it. I mean, this is.
Well, I didn't think of the out until now. That's why we're talking this out.
I mean, thank God. I mean, this is a life
what would I
changer
do?
for you. It's funny because in some families it's like it's a divide. Some people call them one thing, some people call them another thing, and you have an out. It's just grandma and grandpa or whatever.
I'm going to use that, but
Nana
I just still find it
Grampy.
weird with the Brother Bear, Sister Bear thing, because the doctor calls the kids back in the Berenstain Bears thing, and she goes, okay, Sister Bear? Like, she doesn't call her like an actual name. And there's several other bears in the waiting room in the book. They're all other than all there.
Some of them
they're
all sisters and brothers too.
Yes, only child bear. Can you please come back?
Oh, firstborn bear.
Hey, gender neutral bear. Can you make your way to the scale over here?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, that's a weird thing. I never noticed that. I thought they had names, but I haven't read the Berenstain Bears in a long time. So
anyway, now that you can tell that I've had multiple cocktails before the episode started.
What do you drink? What have you been drinking? I mean, this is nuts.
So I made myself a Blue Hawaiian.
What
so
is
a Blue
Hawaiian?
Hawaiian? Yeah, Blue Hawaiian. It's a nice, fun blue drink with coconut rum. Got some coconut rum going on there. I got some maraschino cherries floating around. You do the blue curacao, and then I have pineapple juice. So it is a very, very tropical Hawaiian fun little easy drink to make.
All right.
Highly recommend it. And then I have a few Kona Brewing Big Wave Golden Ale on tap for when I'm finished with this one.
Very nice. Yeah, I went the Kona Brewing Company as well. I did, as promised, a few weeks ago. I don't know when I made this promise or this pledge that I would have Kona longboards, but I'm doing it. I got the Kona longboard. Bought myself a 12-pack, so that's gonna last a little bit. I'm not gonna go through all those today. But
man of his word.
I had mentioned that I have been to the Kona Brewing Company, the actual brewery in Hawaii. So it's in Kona. It's on the Big Island, is where the restaurant and the brewery is. So I've been there, and that's where I first had the beer, and I've had it a few times since then, obviously. And I'm gonna attack some of this longboard tonight while we're talking about Lilo and Stitch.
Right on, brother. Cheers.
Cheers to you.
As you chug your beer.
I did. I'm already down one. So now we're going to crack open number 2. And let's get rolling. What do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
All right. Well, this has been Disney on the Rocks.
This has been another episode of Disney on the Rocks. See you real soon.
What I want to know is, and the sequels do touch on this, but watching this for the first time and before I watch any of the sequels, Experiment 626, it implies that there were 625 experiments before Experiment 626.
Stitch is an abomination. Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you about Experiment 625.
Let me tell you about the 625 failed experiments that I did first.
We tried to give him 4 arms, but he ended up with 4 penises instead.
Ah. Yeah, it's that is never really addressed in the first movie of where are these other experiments, but they do come up later. In the sequels, you do see his what they call cousins.
Well, that was supposed to be the premise of the movie. It was supposed to be a group of aliens. Stitch was supposed to have a ragtag crew with him of other failed experiments. So whatever they ended up doing, and I only saw part of the second movie, so I haven't watched the rest of them, but they, it sounds like, got into exploring the rest of that concept beyond the shelved idea for the first one.
Yeah, one of the best parts of the movie is right away when you get the trial with Jumba is on trial, with Stitch gets presented as evidence, and they ask him, like, let's see if he has any good in him whatsoever. We'll say, like, what do you have to say for yourself? This is your chance, Stitch, to plead your case, show that you're not an abomination, and that you can live on in harmony with all of us. And he speaks alien tongue, so we don't know what he says, but he says something. That's a really good Stitch. He says something so bad that we get another what you called in the Toy Story episode with Rex, the throwing up off screen. You get the robot.
Vomit take.
the vomit take. You get the robot throwing up nuts and bolts over the side.
That killed me. That killed me immediately. Yeah, whatever it was so gross and so disgusting. It made a robot vomit on sight. His inside parts decided they wanted to be on the outside immediately.
Oh, yeah, no,
that's always funny to me. It just never fails.
It's always good. As soon as I saw it, I thought of Rex. And I was like, oh, it's so good.
Have you seen the movie Good Boys?
No.
Or it's from the creators of Superbad. So Seth Rogen, I think, was an executive producer and so on. And it's about 3 middle school boys who are trying to get a drone back that was stolen by 2 girls. It was like the kid's dad's drone. And they're trying to be good kids the whole time, but they curse and they're all over the place. And it's hilarious. But the one kid crashes his bicycle into a bus and breaks his arm or dislocates his shoulder and it's hanging lower. And the one kid sees it and vomits on sight. And it's just always funny. The vomit take, the puke take, whatever you want to call it. Work that into more movies and I will laugh every single time.
Yeah, it should be worked into more movies. There's plenty of times where it works. You get it sometimes in more serious dramas, too, where they walk into, like, a gruesome crime scene or something, and you have, like, the rookie on the side. Like,
the rookie turns aside and starts puking. Well, they make the joke in Tommy Boy. He goes, new guy's over here puking his guts out.
It's another Tommy Boy reference. I like it.
Yeah, man, we got to work those in. Yeah, no, that was good. And then we also get a good look at all the aliens. I love any kind of weird alien council scenes. They did it in the Star Wars prequels where they're all in one big room and it's all the different species of alien hanging out. They're there for a reason. And you get Captain Gantu, the big jacked shark looking dude.
Yeah.
He needed to be in the movie more.
I don't know why he's so mean to Stitch. Like, when they say take him away, like, Stitch has not done anything to this guy.
He just exists.
He really has no, and it's like, take him away. It's like, with pleasure. It's like, why are you taking pleasure in this? And it's like, he's got the gun set up with his DNA. It's like, these are locked on. Like, this is going to be miserable for you, and we're going to banish you on this asteroid. Why are you being so mean to this thing that is like 4 hours old? It was just created. Cat. You're an evil dude. He's kind of the bad guy of the movie. So if you get,
he's a dick.
If you did give him more screen time, he's kind of the villain.
It's like, dude, why are you such a dick? He's like, I don't know, I'm just being a dick to be a dick.
Yeah, just mean. And why did all the aliens? You talked about the aliens like in the council all around. They all look like marine animals. Gantu's like a shark, and then like Pleakley. He's like a squid or like a wormy thing. Like
they all have some sort of an alien, like sea animal, type thing going on. Yeah, what is that? I guess because the movie's going to eventually take place in Hawaii, so they kind of give it. They don't want to go too far away from that feel. Maybe I'm not sure. It's not an underwater movie. It's not The Little Mermaid.
I wonder if they did that intentionally to kind of sync it with the island feel, like they're kind of. These marine animal aliens, obviously not swimming around in water. They're all walking around speaking English. So
yeah, Gantu's a giant when he comes to Earth.
Oh, he's huge. He could like rip open the roof and stuff. And he's a big dude.
Yeah, no. Speaking of the roof, Stitch ends up on Hawaii, and he ends up being found by a little girl named Lilo. And Lilo is the very precocious, outgoing, fun-loving, just different kid, right? She's the one who sees something ugly and was like, I want that one, like when she sees Stitch.
Yeah.
But there's one part where at the very beginning, so one thing I found a little bit offensive, if we can get this out of the way, because there's always something
there was
offensive
no disclaimer. So
no disclaimer in this one. So
you're not really allowed to be offended, I think, unless there's a disclaimer.
If I were Polynesian, I would be offended by the fact that in the opening scene, when they show Nani, when they show her dancing with all the other girls doing hula, all of their faces and noses are drawn exactly the same. The only thing that's different is their hair color.
Well, Nani's not dancing in the opening scene.
I thought she was one of the hula dancers in the opening scene.
No.
See? Well, there you go. I can't even tell them apart. I mean, that's how they drew them. They drew them identical. And not every Polynesian person has a giant, wide nose. And you know what I mean? Like, it just...
you're nitpicking.
It was, to me, it was...
Their background characters. I'm not gonna get too crazy. The little kids all look differently. Lilo,
they're all different.
So 3 of them look like they're Polynesian. Lilo looks different than the other. Like, all 3 of them look different. Then you have Ginger Myrtle, who is the meanest little bitch you've ever met. I mean,
her parents are definitely the islanders who now call themselves natives, but they're white.
Because they
they live there all year round. They bought property and like, oh, we live in Hawaii now.
I'm native. No, but
I'm a native.
Watching it again, Myrtle's mother, is she the person? Is she the lady who works at the shelter? Because they look the same.
They do look the same.
And how many gingers are walking around in that small town in Hawaii?
Yeah, they're the type of people turning to the actual Polynesian islanders, the Hawaiian people, and saying like, "Oh, these tourists! Can't you get them out of here?" Am I right?
Can you believe this?
Can you believe all these tourists?
No, so I think Myrtle's mom is the shelter worker at the animal shelter.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that's a good connection there. Do they explore that at all in any of the sequels?
Well, I didn't see that. No, but Myrtle is not a nice girl. She's very, very mean. She's mean for really no reason other than Lilo's different. And Nani later in the movie tries to console Lilo and tells her, they just don't know what to say. But that's not the case, really, with Myrtle. Myrtle's just mean. She knows Lilo's different. But I mean, look in the mirror, Myrtle. You're not like everyone else around you either. Like, you're also different, but you're so outspoken and mean. She's kind of gotten all these people to kind of follow her. It's like her little mean girl group. You're trying to learn a hula dance. Like, you're not of Polynesian descent. This is not
you're appropriating her culture.
Well, she's not appropriate. She's learning how to hula dance. She's not appropriating.
Yeah, I guess maybe
she lives there. She's local, so she she has every right to learn how to hula dance.
It's like,
but no, she's just mean.
Where are your ancestors from? Kentucky.
But she's just mean, and when she calls Lilo crazy, Lilo wastes no time punching her square in the face, and that is by far the best part of the entire movie.
She deserved it. She got to punch her in the face.
And then she bit her, apparently. So
yeah, she got into it with her.
I'm not going to condone the biting. But punching that girl in the face, 100% condone.
Well, Lilo's been through a lot, right? She's been through what every single Disney character has ever been through. Losing her parents.
Yeah, it's such a young age.
The parents are dead in this one again. It's weird. It's getting weird, Disney. All right, Mickey's sitting somewhere like, are the parents dead in this one? Well, we gotta get rid of them if they're not. Well, how are we gonna do that?
Yeah,
car crash, perfect.
Yeah, and the car. I mean,
I want to see blood. God damn it!
Obviously, it's always like this tragic event that happens, but her and Nani are very far apart in terms of age difference. Nani is old enough to kind of take over as guardian.
Yeah, well, that was the thing, though, is Nani, and my daughter said this watching it, she said her mommy's there, and I said, oh, no, that's her sister. And that apparently, in the original cut of the movie that they showed to test audiences thought Nani was Lilo's mother. Yeah. And then Mickey Mouse was like, well, to hell with that noise. We can't have that. She can't have a mother. Like they killed off the parents, and they made it that Nani. They had to explicitly state that Nani was her sister.
Yeah, and they do it a few times.
Right, and to dovetail off this a little bit too, I tried to switch it up after Lilo and Stitch today. So I had the day off, and I'm watching movies with my daughter. It's raining outside, and I said, you know what? Let's watch something else. And I put on Over the Moon, which is on Netflix. It's a new computer animated movie on Netflix. It's not a Disney movie, but I was like, okay, maybe this will be a change of pace.
How dare you?
Well, right. This will be a change of pace, and it's a little girl, and her mother and her father are together in the scene, and everybody's happy, and then they kill off the mother in the first 10 minutes. First 10 minutes of the movie, the mother's gone. To the point where you can't let the mouse influence your movies if you're not a Disney movie. They introduce a new girlfriend for the father. They do a time jump of 5 years, and they introduce a new girlfriend, and the daughter's like, but Dad, we have each other. And the dad has a look on his face that's like more or less saying like, yeah, but Dad hasn't been laid in about 5 years. Like, I need company. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
But it's a common theme all across the board. And obviously, it's just something a lot of people go through, and it's obviously very hard. But Disney just, they're drawn to it. I feel like it's a common trope for every Disney movie.
They do it a lot. And we've talked about, it's not every movie, but it's common enough where it's noticeable. And when you watch a movie that has it, you instantly think of the other 20 that do it. And there's some of the most prevalent movies that do it too. Some of the flagship movies, Cinderella and Lion King, like these are epic classic movies, and they all have some element of apparent death.
Princess Jasmine doesn't have a mother in Aladdin.
Yeah,
what happened to her mother?
Yeah, right away. I mean, you have that. So it's everywhere. And then you have the Bambi situation where they happen on screen, and it's devastating.
It's a plot point and drives the character forward.
But it makes sense because it does give a reason for children. Like, Disney movies are mostly centered around children or teenagers or very, very young adults that need to experience the conflict in the real world. And the simplest way to do that in a movie is to just remove their parental figure, like get them out of the way in some way.
So are we trying to say that kids who have living parents don't get into as many adventures as kids who don't?
Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying. I mean,
fair enough.
I mean,
there's a way to, but like there's certain movies that do it. There's movies that do it, however, and then they just move on from it, and it never comes back to the plot or the point later in the movie. Whereas with this is a driving force because the whole movie is Nani trying to make sure that she can maintain custody and raise Lilo. So that is a big component of the movie. But then you have movies like Onward where that is the plot of the movie. They lost a parent and they want to be with that parent again. Or you have
Nemo, Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo,
which I think is another one where it kind of does both, right? You get a parent death, but you also get a parent removal from the plot point, right? So Nemo has his own journey. He doesn't remember his mom, right? He wasn't even born because he was still an egg when she was eaten. So you have Nemo who only knows his father growing up. That's his parental figure. So for Nemo, losing his mom wasn't a big deal. Losing his dad, getting lost and separated from his dad was the big deal. And that's what allowed him to go out on his own.
But it's also the motivation for Marlin because he is so overprotective of Nemo because of what happened to all his potential siblings and his
it's
mother
all he has left.
And everything.
It's all he has left.
That's it.
So for Marlin, I get the that's a weird case where you get both sides of it, get their own plot. They get their own story arcs. Most of the time, you just have the child's journey, and the parents are out of the picture. Like Frozen, you have both kids. Your parents aren't really in it. You have other examples of that. Cinderella, they get rid of them early, and the daughter has her own journey on her own. It's a way to kind of remove that parental authority and allow kids to kind of just, find their own way. It's become a trope because they do it so often. It seems to be the easiest way to remove a parent is just kill them. There's other ways to do it. I mean, you could just have them not be there. Like the Goonies, right? All those kids went on that wild adventure in the Goonies. Their parents were just home.
Yeah, they were home. They were working.
Yeah.
You could explore divorce.
Yeah, you could just do that.
I think that's an extremely common one. You could explore divorce. You could have a story about a kid crossing the border into the United States and being separated from their parent, never seeing them again. That could be an adventure movie.
That's terrible. No one wants to watch that movie.
No one wants to watch that in real life. No one wants to watch that in a movie.
In all seriousness, though, and not to joke about it, Lilo in this movie needs help. She needs therapy. She needs some kind of counseling to get through this because Nani, as much as she's trying to be a parental figure and as much as she's trying to provide for her little sister, she's not doing the job. And she's not getting her the help she needs. And Lilo is coping with this in ways that only Lilo can because she's such an eccentric, cute little kid. She's more of an adult. She's forced to. I mean, a lot of times
6 years old.
She's forced to grow up so quick. I mean, she doesn't act like a 6-year-old. She acts much older and she's much more mature in a lot of ways. And she finds ways to cope. And one of the primary ways that she copes is you find it out in 2 separate parts of the movie. The movie opens, after the whole intergalactic scene. But you've got Lilo swimming through the water when they put the title screen up, right? And you see a little fish with a peanut butter sandwich swimming away. You see Pudge the fish as soon as they open the title. And Lilo's swimming through, and she's late to her luau practice, and she's on her way. She's soaking wet. She gets there. The teacher scolds her, like, you're all wet. What's going on? And she goes into the whole rant, which is adorable, about how I'd be an abomination if I fed a fish a tuna sandwich. And I had to go to the store, buy peanut butter. And I love it's a great intro to Lilo because it shows you her passion and, how just,
she's a great character, yeah.
She's great. So the teacher asks her, like, well, why is this so important? And it's like, well, it's sandwich day and Pudge controls the weather. And at the time, you don't really think about it, but later you find out her parents died in a car crash on a rainy night. So
she doesn't want it to rain.
She wants to control the weather. She's trying to take control of an uncontrollable situation. She's coping. As a 6-year-old, she thinks, if I give this fish a peanut butter sandwich every Thursday, it won't rain. People won't get hurt. Pudge controls the weather. It's a completely illogical jump, but it's something she's done because she's not actually getting help in coping with what happened to her. She's doing it on her own, and she found this random way to cope with it. It's so sad, and
yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It really makes me feel for Lilo, and when you realize that that's the connection between this throwaway joke in the beginning of the movie about feeding a fish peanut butter sandwiches, and then you jump later in the movie, and now you realize that the weather is connected to what just destroyed her family and took her parents. She needs help, and she needs to get counseling, and it's really sad that Nani, for all of her shortcomings, that's probably her biggest one. She's doing the bare minimum to take care of the girl, but she is not taking care of her mentally.
Say that she's doing the bare minimum to take care of her. She needs to keep a job to support.
She can't.
Right?
She's not capable. It's not really her fault.
She's not capable.
It's not
She's
her
spreading
fault.
herself too thin.
Yes, it's not her fault. It would be nice if David would lend a hand once in a while instead of just asking her out all the time. Why don't you come over and cook a meal, right?
And put a shirt on.
Put a shirt on.
The kid never wears a shirt.
It's unbelievable.
It's a little ridiculous. But, the person who also is a little ridiculous in this is Cobra Bubbles, the social worker.
I love Cobra.
Former CIA agent social worker, Cobra Bubbles, who is Ving Rhames. Marcellus Wallace from Pulp Fiction. Step aside, Butch. He's got the best
character.
Voice ever. Yeah, he really is. At first, I saw him and I forgot Ving Rhames did the voice. And I said, oh, Marcellus Wallace is their social worker. And then he spoke and I'm like, ah!
It really is him.
He really was the social worker. So my sister is a social worker. And I actually asked her ahead of this. I said, all right, I need you to watch Lilo and Stitch ahead of us doing the show. And tell me at what moment you as a social worker would have removed Lilo from the situation. Because it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard decision to make. She said, the opening scene alone is enough to justify the social worker. She's swimming alone in the ocean. The sister also runs home saying, you better be home. How does she not know where she is?
Oh, she can't. You can't do that.
Right. Then she threatens to feed her to the social worker, which is
in a blender.
In a blender. It's but it's kind of a throwaway joke. Then Lilo says that she disciplines her with a pillowcase full of bricks.
Yeah.
But then it also led to my favorite part of the movie. My favorite part was Lilo is sitting there with her little voodoo spoons and puts them in the jar and starts shaking the jar, the pickle jar, and turns to Cobra and goes, my friends need to be punished.
Yeah, total deadpan.
The deadpan deal was great.
The one spoon has the little glasses for Myrtle.
Right.
Looks just like her.
Yeah. The other thing, too, was, so about that scene, she said, okay, so finding her home alone with the stove on, talking about discipline with bricks.
Well, and Lilo mentions that the stove has been on all day.
Yeah.
It's like, I found it like that this morning.
Yeah, justified removal of the situation. Later 100%. On, though, the near drowning incident while surfing, if it was just that incident, that's the moment that he actually does remove her when they almost drown, right? He takes... Yes. Cobra comes and tries to take Lilo away.
He gives her 12 more hours to try to kill this kid first.
Right. So the removal wouldn't be justified there. She was supervised and knew how to swim. It was an accident, no neglect.
I want to push back a little bit because they are out on a surfboard. She is with her boyfriend David. Who is this guy? He's not a guardian. You don't know what he's all about.
Nani was there.
Nani's there on a different surfboard.
Yeah, it's still an activity. In her eyes, it's something that they were doing together. It's not an unsupervised
that wave was like
situation.
40 feet tall. You're not boogie boarding in the surf. You're out there doing, that is like a Hawaiian surf
Hawaiian waves are terrifying, right? They're the thing of legend.
You can't bring a 6-year-old, I don't care how good of a swimmer she is, You can't bring her out there with 40-foot waves. I mean, those things were curling over their head. That kid, and she's not strapped to the board. They're not taking any safety precautions. Screw that. I would take that kid in a heartbeat.
So, okay, so here, knowing what Cobra Bubbles knows in this situation, I just love saying the name Cobra Bubbles. But if you gave the sister a second chance after the first incident, then the near drowning happened, coupled with the joblessness and possession of a vicious pet he refused to get rid of, yeah, she could see a removal happening.
Yeah.
So the short answer is yes. It's justified.
She should be taken away. And it's not Nani. Again, it's not her fault. I mean, she was thrust into this as well.
No.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah, she dealt with the same tragedy.
Yeah, who knows what Nani was like as a. I mean, how old is Nani? 18 maybe.
18, yeah. At the youngest, I think she'd be 18 to be a legal guardian.
I guess she'd have to be 18 at the time of her parents' death, right? So she's probably 19, 20. It's probably been a couple of years since the parents died. We'll give it 2 years, right? So she's probably like 20. She's not, this was thrust on her. Who knows what she was like as an 18-year-old? She could have been some rebel. Maybe she was never even home. You have no idea what her life was like before she was forced into raising a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old. Like, that's a huge responsibility. She didn't sign up for that. I mean,
no.
She had a life going, and now she's got to pick up, like, these odd jobs because she has to be home in the afternoon, so she's got to work at the restaurant and bring Lilo with her. I mean, what time is it? Lilo, I mean...
It's late.
It's late. She's worried. There's like a luau. Those things don't start till like 10 o'clock. Come on. Lilo's got to go home to bed.
Yeah, no, it's completely irresponsible. And we're talking about Nani, who is voiced by Tia Carrera, who is Cassandra in Wayne's World. Swing. She's a babe. Swing. She were president, she'd be Abraham Lincoln. She could give a dog a bone. Yeah, I love that movie. Oh, man.
So good.
Wayne's World 2 is on today. I was watching that. It was great.
When is it not on?
She said, somebody said something, or maybe it was in the first one. Cassandra says, he's talking about a record or like a club promoter or something. He said, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And she says, yeah, and if a frog had wings, it'd bump his ass when he hopped. Like, what?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, but it kind of does. But yeah, she's really good. She's Hawaiian, so she was born in Hawaii.
Yeah, and she gave a lot of the lingo and kind of the authenticity to the movie. She
her and Jason Scott Lee, who was Mowgli in the 1994 Jungle Book, which we talked about last week. He does the voice of David. So yeah, they both influenced the dialogue and the language in the movie. And the shirtlessness, yes. I don't know if there's ever been a movie that I've seen him wear a shirt, actually, now that I think about it, because he did the Jungle Book, was shirtless for most of that. And he did Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. And if you picture Bruce Lee, you don't picture Bruce Lee with a T-shirt on.
No.
Right? It's Bruce Lee shirtless with big scratches across his chest.
I don't think you could even find a picture of Bruce Lee with a shirt. I mean, I don't think you could do it.
I think you can. Well, I'm going to put that out there.
Well,
I mean, that might have been an exaggeration, but...
All right. Well, you know what? Whatever. The other... there's two other major voice actors in this. Well, one voice actor, the guy who does Jumba, is also Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
And then you've got the voice of Lilo. She, in the same year, played Samara in The Ring. She was the evil girl who crawled out of the TV.
That was her?
That was her. She did the voice of Lilo. And we always talked about it. You know that your career's going nowhere when you start playing sequel voices, the same character in sequels.
Yeah, yeah.
She plays Lilo in every sequel. The show, the series, the movie, the TV movie. She has been Lilo for
She outgrew the
10
Ring.
years.
She couldn't do that creepy crawl anymore and couldn't run around
12.
going, I'm the Ring. Rah, I'm the Ring. That's that movie, right? That's what she does.
I don't think she said that.
I got a videotape I want to show you, too. When we're done here, I got a VHS tape I want you to watch. Anyway.
Yeah, send that right over.
Yeah.
So she was Samara in The Ring, and it came out the same year, which I thought was pretty cool. But she was 12 at the time, and then she went on to play Lilo for like the next 10 years. She was like 20, and she was still Lilo.
Oof. Oh man, she needs a new agent.
She can
But
still
it's
do the
Disney.
voice,
Hey,
though.
it's Disney. It's like, well, I'm working.
Yeah. Hey, another fun fact. Fun fact about
Yes,
the
hit me.
movie. I say another. I don't know if I gave any fun facts today, but fun fact: this was the first movie since Dumbo to have watercolors as the background.
I have that written down as well, and that was one of my favorite touches with the way this movie was done. I noticed it right away, and I said, wow, how many Disney movies were done with watercolor backgrounds like that? And
They were not.
I found the same thing, that it was the first since Dumbo, and it's beautiful.
There's a hidden Dumbo in Lilo's room. One of her stuffed animals in the background is a stuffed Dumbo.
I did not catch that.
Little callback.
Little callback to Dumbo. I like it.
Yeah.
They worked that in.
And the
What
other
can't
Easter
they
egg.
do?
The other Easter egg is, again, it's a license plate, A113, the fire truck.
Yes, that was the other one too. Saving that for later, but yeah, A113 is it was an oil truck.
I ruined it.
It was
for
an
you.
oil truck. Speaking of the oil truck, so in the
Oil
climax
truck?
of the movie,
No, it was the fire truck.
At
Was
the
it
end?
both? Was it both?
it was both. It was the oil truck at the end that gets thrown into the volcano with presumably the driver still in it. Because I looked, I had to rewind it and watch. I said, did the driver ever get out of the car, or did did Stitch go in and maul the driver, throw his body on the ground of the truck, and then blow up the truck? Because that is very possible.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably dead either way. But
Yeah.
how did
that
they
guy
get away
didn't
with
make it.
that? So the oil truck and the fire truck both have Hawaiian A113 license plates. There's some fraud going on here.
100%. There's an illegal operation going on the Big Island.
I don't like it. I don't like it at
I'm
all.
Not a fan.
If you're going to
Not
throw
a
an
fan.
Easter egg in there, you got to make it make sense. It drives me nuts
Yep.
when it doesn't make sense. Like the Hercules with the scar. It
And
drives
poor
me nuts.
Gary. Poor Gary, the truck driver. He had a family. He was trying to go home, finish his route for the day, and then he ran into Stitch.
Yeah, it was my last day on the job. One day before retirement.
One day before retirement.
And I ran into...
Gotta love
I
those
ran into-
tropes.
I ran into Stitch. Changed my life forever.
That little goddamn monster. Oh, man, running around. Oh, Hannah, it's family. Like, he just comes out there and tries to start talking late in the movie. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, he learned English.
Well, he could talk the whole time. He chose not to. Because he was going to talk. He talked to Lilo.
Oh, yeah, he
in
was
the
freakishly
shelter.
smart. I forgot about that.
He said hello. And then Lilo's like, oh, he can talk. And Myrtle's mom, the shelter worker, who I'm just going to call Myrtle's mom from now on. Myrtle's mom's like, dogs can't talk. And that's when Stitch was like, oh, thanks for the pointer. Because I was about to blow it. And then he was like, bark, bark. Like,
Right.
the most.
We talked about Nani a
generic
little
bark.
bit, voiced by Tia Carrera. Nani is drawn very...
Thick.
She's thick, which is... It's a good thick. In fact, I think when we were watching it... I know when we were watching it, my wife turned to me and said, it looks like Lilo's sister's got a fat ass. And I said, yeah, in a good way. She meant that in a good way. And I said, she sure does.
Yeah,
but
they're
she's
all
also
kinda
jacked.
drawn
Like,
that
she's got
way.
like a very skinny waist, but then they gave her little... like baby fat in the belly.
Yeah.
And then when they got to her shoulders, she had Brock Lesnar traps. Like, she was huge.
Did you see the stride she took running down the street when she wasn't sure where Lilo was in the beginning of the movie? It's like, you better be home.
She's running ground.
She's running down the street.
She's like a gazelle.
She took strides. She was down that street in 3 steps and around the corner. That she could fly. She could really. I mean, she's in the wrong profession. I mean, I don't know what she can do, but she needs
Long
something
distance
with more,
runner. She should be a long distance runner.
Yeah, more physical activity. Although she's really good at being the waitress until Stitch like tries to eat somebody. Again, why are you bringing the dog and your younger sister to a luau?
At least leave the weird dog at home.
You got to at least put him in like a cage, but I guess he'd get out. But who cares? And just let him run away. Like, you had him for a day.
He would absolutely get out. He was too smart for that.
Well, I mean, he couldn't even the genetic gun thing couldn't even hold him. Which no other prisoner ever thought about spitting on the security guard to get the DNA to shoot him. I mean, that seems pretty obvious.
Well, he's pretty intelligent.
I think I could have figured that out.
I wouldn't have figured that out.
No, I'm not saying you would have figured it out. I wasn't saying like the collective me or we or you could have figured it out. I meant I could have figured it out. But
you specifically could have figured that out.
Oh, I'm Jeff. I'm a science major. I got a doctorate in lasers.
But all that's true. And I think I could have figured it out. But Stitch escapes, and I don't know where I was going to go with that. I was trying to segue, and I've got nothing.
Okay, fair enough. We're not. So if you got nothing, then why don't we get into the fact that the movie has 4 montages?
Why does Lilo take pictures of fat people? Can we talk about that for a few minutes?
I have literally written here butts and fat people, and I couldn't remember why I wrote that down. And that's what it was. She had pictures on her wall of butts and fat people.
I have that phrase written down for many things, but this was referring to Lilo.
Wait, hold on. What else would you have butts and fat people written down for?
I don't know. Just trying to give the people something to laugh at.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. We got a first here, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway.
Yeah, but why? Can you tell me
you
why?
Can bust my balls
do you have any theories about why she's taking pictures of fat people?
Maybe they're just interesting to her. She keeps taking pictures. Well, at first she takes a picture of that poor guy with the sunburn and the mint chocolate chip ice cream cone.
I got to tell you, he loses his ice cream in every sequel and every episode of that show. The guy has never had a bite of ice cream.
Never once? He never ends up getting the ice cream.
It always falls. I think at one point he does take one bite, but it always falls.
Well, no, he takes one bite in the dream scenario.
Oh, you're right.
It's the dream scenario in the sequel. When Stitch is dreaming about destroying everything, he takes out the ice cream stand and blows through it after the guy turned around taking a bite, and the gust or actually when he turns to look after taking the bite is when the ice cream falls.
And that's when you know it was a dream sequence, because he actually took a bite of the ice cream. That told you right there, this can't be real. This guy can't eat ice cream. He's cursed.
But how does Stitch know that guy? How did that guy get worked in his dream sequence?
He's always around. He sees him at the beach all the time.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
that's probably,
you know what?
Because maybe that's Myrtle's father. Her mom's
could
working.
Be.
Her mom's working over at the shelter,
and he's just trying to eat his ice cream.
Why not? You know what though? After 1 or 2 times, just go get a cup and stay inside. Like, why are you taking it with you?
Yeah, because at this point, you think he definitely would have eaten the waffle cone that it was on.
Well, you hope that he had it long enough where some of the ice cream melted into the waffle cone, so you at least get the second scoop.
Yeah, I don't feel as bad thinking about it that way, because usually in movies where somebody tries to do something several times throughout the movie, it eventually works out tenfold, right? It works out to a point where you'd think it'd be a moment where he'd be standing outside of an ice cream place, the ice cream cone gets knocked out of his hand, he's ready to freak out, and then Stitch blows up the place, and all of the ice cream lands on the guy. Now he's able to eat all of the ice cream he wants. Like,
that'd be great.
It's just a dream scenario for somebody who's dying to eat ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, he tries so many times. It's like a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man type thing with Walter Peck. But with ice cream, and the guy wants it. He's like, yes, right. Ice cream. Fantastic. But still, why? So that's that one guy, and I understand, like, he's an interesting looking character. And I was like, oh, she's taking a picture of him because he looks weird. And he just dropped his ice cream. Like, cool. But then when you're in her room, and she's got the whole photo wall of, I don't get it. The only connection I could make was to Pudge the fish. She named the fish Pudge, which is, obviously a word for larger,
somebody who's
pudgy,
a little pudgy
person, right? So that's the only connection I could find, where that she likes fat people, she thinks they're interesting, she takes pictures of them, and then she named the fish Pudge. But why? I that's the sequel I need. That's what I was hoping to find out.
They've had so many sequels to explain it. They've never touched on it.
They've never touched on it, and it's really annoying. Maybe it's the Elvis connection. Elvis got fat as he got older.
Elvis did get fat when he got older. This is our first time talking about Elvis.
Maybe
so
that's
she has
the connection.
A big obsession with the king, and yes. I love Elvis. In fact, we have we don't have it hanging up anymore, but we had a poster of the movie King Creole that Elvis was in back in the day. So he did a lot of movies. It's a real cool picture of Elvis in a leather jacket ready to throw a punch. But he was awesome, and Lilo is obsessed with him. But maybe in the sequels, they explain why she was obsessed with Elvis. Maybe it was something her parents were into. I don't know. But she tries to go on a tour in the second one to go to all the places Elvis has been to in Hawaii.
Yeah, so she goes, she sits on like the bench that he sat on and went to like the laundromat where like his underwear is. So it's funny. That was one of the better parts of the movie in the sequel was the Elvis connection. And in the first one, in this movie, you have Stitch pretending to be Elvis and doing an impersonation on the beach, and that causes just chaos.
Mass chaos. I love a big. What's your favorite Elvis song? Do you have a favorite Elvis song?
I would say I don't really have a favorite Elvis song, but every Christmas I do love Blue Christmas Elvis.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Love that one.
Classic song. I'm a big fan of "Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear."
Yeah, that's a good one.
Let me be your loving teddy bear. Yeah, oh man.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Sorry, swig of beer for the working man. Anyway,
so the only thing, do you have anything else about Lilo and Stitch? I think we covered most of it.
Well, they do 4 montages in the movie.
Yeah, they do.
They do a lot of montages, which after the second one, you're like, all right, guys.
Hawaiian
that happened, and then the other thing too was Stitch tried to do the Home Alone technique, and it backfired horrendously. They blew up the house.
Yeah.
During the big fight scene, and then there was
the hot potato.
Lastly,
the hot potato with the gun. It just blows up the house. He's like, no, I don't want it. You will.
And then the final thing too was Cobra Bubbles revealed himself to have been former CIA, because at first I'm like, why is he not freaked out by all of the aliens? And then it's like, used to work at Area 51. It's
yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
And the other reference to Area 51 is Earth is located in the galactic empire that they have. The coordinate is in Sector 51 or Area 51.
I think they called it Area 51, yeah.
So Area 51
the mosquitoes joke was good. The fact that mosquitoes were endangered species and they were trying to repopulate them on Earth.
So Bubbles saved the day because Bubbles he's like, I convinced an alien species that mosquitoes were an endangered species. And so he's the one who put that into, what's the guy's name? Blinkley's head or something? Whatever his friggin' name is.
It's not important.
The word. We haven't talked about him at all.
No, you know who he reminded me of? He reminded me of Mike Wazowski in Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, a little bit. Mike's obviously more of a main character.
No, but looks-wise, I mean, obviously, from the neck up, he's... Except for the fact that he has 2 tongues, he's Mike Wazowski.
That's weird. And the weirdest thing is in one of the sequels. I don't remember which one. I don't know if they just screwed it up, but when they drew him, he was like in a disguise and he had pants on. It was a 3-legged pants, but one of the pant legs was empty. And I'm like, why would he have 3-legged pants to accommodate his 3 legs and then fit both legs into one leg? It didn't make any sense, Disney. You really you screwed with my head on that one. I didn't like it.
You guys are masters of detail, and you shit the bed.
Well, not in the sequels though. They're not going to have that level. But he's a cool little side character. I mean, he's obviously like the moral compass, if you would, for Jumba. He makes sure he stays in line and doesn't just destroy the whole planet or destroy the island.
You need that. You definitely need that.
And he's a rule follower. He's so strict. He knows like the whole like guidelines and the rules of
he's got his little book. Yeah.
He's like, that would be a poor use of resources. So there's no way we could get Lilo back. It's like, well, you have a spaceship. Just go after him. Like, how did they not think of that right away?
Right.
Well, but apparently in the original version, that wasn't going to be a spaceship. They were going to go to the airport and steal a plane and fly after him in a plane, but this movie was released in 2002, so I don't have to tell you.
Oh, you can't do that.
Why they didn't hijack a plane in 2002 and fly through the city. So they changed the city landscape into this mountain landscape, and they changed the plane into a spaceship, and that was Disney. Hey, solid move. You had to do it.
Yeah, smart move. It's like with Spider-Man, when the trailer came out for the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, the first trailer was a helicopter out of control around the World Trade Center, and then something happens where you're seeing it from the point of view of the pilot, and everything just stops, and they're in midair, and they're looking down at the street in New York and like what's going on. And it panned out, and Spider-Man had webbed up the helicopter between the Twin Towers.
Which is a great visual. That was on every poster, every trailer.
And then they had to scrap that very quickly before the movie came out.
Yeah, you have to. So yeah, that was supposed to be a plane. So they redrew it to be a spaceship, and I think it works better as a spaceship, and it allows them to get from what island are they on? They're on like I think Kauai.
Kauai, yeah, they're on Kauai.
So they're on Kauai, and obviously there's no volcanoes over there, so it gets them. It gives them the excuse to get over to the Big Island where there are active volcanoes and the volcano park, and that's where they had the final battle scene, basically with Stitch stealing the oil tanker and going into the volcano and blowing up and attacking the what's Gantu? Yeah, Gantu. I'm not good with these names, man.
They're weird alien names.
They're
like, how are these? And to be honest, some of them are genuinely forgettable characters.
Yes, I would agree that Bleakley is. He's not really forgettable. He's just not worth talking about too much. Jumba is really just there to push Stitch into the situation. Like, Stitch would have just gone and terrorized people if not for Jumba being there, trying to capture him.
Still don't get the whole Russian accent thing.
Yeah,
but...
he that doesn't make any sense. But overall, I like the movie. I mean, I love the movie. It reminds me of movies I watched when I was a kid. I mean, I loved sci-fi movies growing up. I mean, that's all. My sister Katie and I growing up were just nerds. I mean, absolute nerds watching the
So that's where the whole science thing.
I'm Jeff. I'm a science guy. I love science fiction
I think that
lasers and
I think that mostly came from the Ghostbusters. I kind of just wanted to be a Ghostbuster. But what kind of movies did you watch as a kid? Did you watch sci-fi movies? Did you watch just like kid movies? Like what?
I watched a mix. I would definitely watch a lot of movies I shouldn't have watched at a young age because I had older cousins who just watched whatever. Yeah. So I watched a lot of horror movies that, of course, were fine to watch during the day. And then when it came to bedtime at night, I had a sleeping bag on my parents' floor. Yes, I just said that on a podcast out loud, and that lasted until I was, 15, 16?
Did you wet the bed, too?
No, I didn't wet the bed, no. But
not that you know.
It was longer than it should have lasted with that. So I saw a lot of those. But like movies like The Lost Boys, Child's Play, Nightmare on Elm Street. But
so those are older.
I was also very big into... Yeah, a lot of horror movies were the ones that stuck with me, but The Princess Bride, Spaceballs. You have Gremlins, I think I've mentioned a lot on the show, is one I grew up with. Gremlins 2, Ghostbusters, all those movies. I was into whatever the hot toy was. So like when He-Man was like the best toy you could have, the Masters of the Universe movie starring Dolph Lundgren was the movie for me. And then you have the Ninja Turtles. So once those movies came out, I was on board with that. Ghostbusters. I wish there was a Thundercats movie, but there wasn't. But all that stuff was... Yeah, that was where I hung out mostly with what I watched.
I'm going to throw a couple movies out there, and you let me know if you've seen them. Because these were some of my favorites as a kid. And I probably haven't seen any of these in 25 years, maybe 30 years. Mac and Me.
Oh my God! So Mac and Me, that was one I rented a couple times from West Coast Video. But Mac and Me, I see you're smiling. Are you about to tell the Paul Rudd?
No,
story?
Well, I know the Paul Rudd story on Conan.
Yes, every time Paul Rudd is on Conan O'Brien and they do the thing where, hey, I got a new movie coming out. It's called Anchorman.
Here's a clip.
And a lot of fun. Here's a clip from the movie. And it's always the clip from the little boy going down the hill. Yeah, he's in the wheelchair, recklessly, uncontrollably going down a hill and ready to fall off a cliff. And that's the clip that they always show. He does fall off the cliff. It's all cheesy.
It's
clearly a dummy in a wheelchair going over a cliff. Bad. It's so bad. And then they show Mac pop up and go, ugh? That's the clip that they show. And Paul Rudd has done it to him like something maybe 15, 20 times. Every single time he's on. Yeah.
So we watched Mac and Me a lot. We would rent that movie. We didn't own it. We rented it. So my mom always worked Saturday mornings. She was a nurse, so she would go in on Saturday mornings. So my dad watched us as kids on Saturday, and that was in the winter. That's kind of what we did. We would, we'd wake up, we'd do stuff around the house, and then we'd go to the video store. We were allowed to rent whatever we wanted. And looking back, I mean, now being a dad, I understand what he was doing. He's like, rent whatever the hell you want. You want to rent Mac and Me for the 80th time for $2? Go for it.
Sure, why not?
If it's going to keep you quiet for an hour and a half, I'm all for it. You know what? Rent 2 movies, 3 movies. I don't care.
Smart move by Jeff Sr.
So that's what we did. And Mac and Me was one of them. And I love, my favorite part of Mac and Me is the very end where they're all driving in the car and it just says the end ? And it's like,
as if there's going to be a Mac and Me too.
Right. There's
more
confident.
to this story that you need to hear.
They were so confident at this. It's basically an E.T. knockoff, but with the entire family. It's an entire family of aliens. It's just E.T. It's the whole premise is E.T., but an entire family living with a kid. And the end?
The end? Or is it? Well, they did that. I just mentioned He-Man with Dolph Lundgren. There's a scene. They actually were one of the first movies I remember doing a post-credit scene. Very, very end of the movie, Skeletor, in the big climax, Skeletor falls into a deep, deep pit. Just like every movie. He gets knocked off the thing, falls, screaming. You're thinking, oh man, Skeletor is done. And then post-credits, there's a water bubbling. It looks all evil and hot. And then Skeletor pops up, looks dead into the camera and says, I'll be back. And then the movie ends.
Yeah.
And
yes.
he wasn't.
We're going to get another one.
Frank Langella didn't get another chance at that one.
The other terrible movie that comes to mind that did something like that was Godzilla. Remember that when they had all the eggs in Madison Square Garden? What was it, 2000, 2001, Godzilla?
That was so bad.
And it was the same thing. They got Godzilla, they killed the whole thing, and then credits, black, and then it just pans to an egg that's hatching in Madison Square Garden. You're like, oh, we're going to get a sequel. And you're like, you almost wonder the people making these terrible movies, they throw something like that at the end just to get the hook so that people start talking about it so that maybe they could get a sequel out of it. Because if you just watch Godzilla or you just watch Mac and Me or these movies, they're terrible. They don't deserve a sequel.
Stand alone, it's just no.
They're bad.
Hey, no, there's still more of this story to tell.
No. So, all right, I'm going to throw another one out there.
All right, what do you got?
Short Circuit.
Of course. Short Circuit?
Yeah, so Johnny 5 and then Short Circuit 2. We watched it all the time. Both of them.
I love the climax to Short Circuit 2 where Johnny is trying to save the day, but he's dying. He's running out of energy or battery or whatever. And the music they had was, I need a hero. I'm holding out for a hero. They honest to God went with I need a hero for that from Footloose. And it was awesome.
And he goes all Rambo. It's so good. I mean, it's so bad, but it's perfectly bad. But that is one that got their sequel. And
deservedly so.
I mean, Short Circuit was really good. And then it's not really good, but I loved it. As a kid, I mean, I absolutely loved it. I'll throw another one out there. Batteries Not Included. Did you watch Batteries Not Included? The little
I did watch
discs.
Batteries Not Included.
Little drones
I love the guy
who
was he had some sort, I can't remember for sure, and I wish I remember the actor's name, but he's really good. He had some sort of a head injury or he was a little mentally disabled, but he put on boxing gloves and was going to beat up the bad dude for hitting his girlfriend or something. I can't remember. That's one of the scenes I vaguely remember.
I haven't seen Batteries Not Included in a very long time. At the time, I remember it being awesome, and I remember the just being totally realistic. I bet if I watched it now, I would probably notice that those things were not really flying through the air. But,
oh, no. But it was like the first shot at that kind of special effect. But going back to Short Circuit, what happened to Steve Guttenberg? He was on Ballers recently, which was a great comeback for him. But outside of that, he was missing for most of the 90s.
Who made Steve Guttenberg a star? We did. We did.
The Stonecutters?
Yes. Who keeps the Martians
the
under
Simpsons
wraps?
reference. Oh, man. No, Short Circuit was great. Batteries Not Included was another great one. I love that movie.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Now I got to revisit some of these.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff I watch. I mean, Gremlins for sure, but any sci-fi. I mean, anything sci-fi we were into. So Lilo and Stitch, if that had come out in like the early 90s, and apparently it was like storyboard, like from like 84 and on. Like they had this concept very early. It was
in development for a long time.
Yeah, it wasn't Lilo and Stitch until much, much later, where it was in Hawaii. It was supposed to be based in like Kansas and
Kentucky, I think, were the two spots where it was supposed to originally be, yeah.
So it was a lot of different iterations of the final movie of what came to be Lilo and Stitch. But if that had come out early on as a Disney cartoon movie, that was my genre, man. Like, those were my movies.
Yeah. The fun, family-friendly, sci-fi type movies.
Then you even had more family-oriented, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yep.
More successful movies like E.T. and, Close Encounters. Things like that were huge in my house.
Well, for me, the two big sci-fi movies, and I know you mentioned Alien a lot.
Alien.
I know that franchise is one of your favorites. I'm a big Predator fan. Predator is the alien coming to Earth. And interacting with humans in obviously a very different way than Lilo and Stitch. But
a little different.
The concept is still a little similar.
Well, you know what? If the Predator had found a cute little girl to become family with, maybe Predator would have turned out more like Stitch.
Yeah, he might have.
They're basically the same. They start off as the same thing.
They really do. This is a great idea.
This is
Could you
actually
imagine if Disney did an animated Predator series or a movie?
Lilo and Stitch is basically Predator, but on an alternate timeline.
Yeah, I'm on board. I'm gonna write this up. This is gonna be a thing now.
That's
Predator and Stitch, or Lilo and
cousins.
Predator.
Lilo and Predator is basically what this
Lilo
movie
and
is.
Predator.
If the Predator had just really taken a shine to Arnold, it would have turned out completely different.
That's not what he wanted, man. He wanted that challenge. That was the whole deal.
Yeah, well, I guess that's really what tapers Stitch's aggressiveness in this
Get
movie.
to the chopper.
Stitch's whole being, his whole drive in life, is what was explained was he has to get to a city and just destroy it, and apparently steal everyone's like left shoe or something. That's like the other thing in his genetic code.
Very specific.
Very specific.
Very specific.
Destroy cities and take shoes, but only one shoe, not both shoes. But because there's no big cities, and because he's surrounded by water, he had no choice but to go against his programming, his genetic programming. The Predator is in a situation where he's allowed to do exactly what he wants to do. But imagine the Predator landing on an island with no other people, no one to hunt, nothing to do. He might have just hung out and been like a regular dude.
So that was actually a sort of a premise for a Predator comic book, that 3 predators like 100 years ago landed on an island where it wasn't populated, and they crashed. Their plane was supposed to go elsewhere.
Nothing to do.
They crashed on an island. There was nothing to do. But then eventually people who went to the island were hunted by the predators when they got there, and they became gods to the local islanders on the neighboring island. And it became a whole really, really cool story for the comic. But anyway.
So that lends some credence to our theory that Stitch is a predator, because if they're stuck on the island, that means they can't swim either.
Ooh.
So Stitch can't swim, predators can't swim.
Yeah, and the Predator's invisibility cloak doesn't work in water either. That's a big thing. Remember, he lands in the water and he has to come out, and that's the first time you really get a good look at the Predator.
Yeah, a little short circuit there.
Yeah,
short circuit.
I see what you did. You looped it back, and that's comedy.
We just talked about that movie with the same name.
And Steve Guttenberg.
Who made Steve Guttenberg a star? We do.
Another great sci-fi movie starring Steve Guttenberg, 3 Men and a Baby.
Yeah. Science fiction.
Science fiction. A baby gets left on a doorstep, and 3 single guys in New York City figure out how to take care of it? Man.
It's basically Mowgli. He might as well be raised by wolves in the jungle at that point.
maybe that's what Three Men and a Baby is. It's a live action take on the Jungle Book. Perhaps the greatest live action take on the Jungle Book now that I think about it.
It's probably the best.
Definitely has legs. I like that theory. All right, what else do we got? Are there any more sci-fi movies that you wanted to throw out there, or?
No, I covered them. That's about it. I mean, there were more, but those were some of my favorites and some of the more obscure ones that I watched a lot. And I'm telling you, Lilo and Stitch, it came out about 10 years too late for me. If this had come out in 92,
well, yeah, we were graduating high school in 2002.
Yeah, it was too late for me. I mean, I liked it. I liked the movie when it came out. I watched it, but you couldn't get into it. I mean, we were like, what, 17, 18 years old when this came out?
No, 2002 was our summer. It probably came out as a summer movie, before you and I first met in college.
Yeah.
Probably this came out a few months before we started having classes together.
Yeah, so it's just not wrong era for me to enjoy it as a kid, obviously, but I would have.
Yeah.
I mean, this would have been it. My kid liked it. He keeps asking for more Lilo and Stitch, and I just keep putting on sequels, and he's eating it up.
That's the trick that I'm trying to get into with mine, so she doesn't burn out on the movie and that I don't burn out on the movie is, hey, you want to watch Lilo and Stitch again? Great, there's more of it, and then you put on the sequel.
Yeah.
She doesn't know the difference. She still thinks it's the same movie.
Oh,
so for her, she's on board. So we were doing that today a little bit until we switched over to Over the Moon, which didn't last long because eventually she said, I don't want to watch this movie anymore.
Yeah.
Put something else on.
Yeah.
But it was very grim for the first half hour.
Yeah, he says that once in a while, like, I don't really like this. And he always has a reason. They'll be like, why didn't you like it? He'll be like, there's too many bad guys. Like,
see, I can't wait till she can actually tell me why.
Yeah.
She's still just like not feeling it, so we move on to something else. But one movie that we talked about earlier in trying to understand and figure out what we want to do next week, I know we spent some time earlier talking about the whole dead parents thing in Disney.
Yeah.
I'm thinking next week we talk about a movie that you recently watched for the first time. I watched several months ago for the first time and sobbed like a baby, and it's actually the most recent movie released in the Disney Pixar catalog, and that is 2020's Onward.
Onward, the direct to Disney Plus movie Onward.
Right, yeah, because of COVID, they had to pivot. They said, well, we're not going to make any money in the movie theaters as we watch movie theaters die around us every day, which is awful.
So technically, this will be the first movie we cover that is not a theatrical release.
Yeah, I would say so, right? I mean, we talked about
right?
Yeah, technically that it's not a theatrical release. I know,
but it is. It counts. It's part of the
Pixar.
It's
well, that's how
Pixar
things
movie.
are going to be for quite some time. Mulan was supposed to be a theatrical release.
Soul.
Soul was meant to be a release in the theater. Instead, we're getting that on Christmas Day, which I'm telling you right now, our episode post-Christmas, our first episode back after Christmas, we're going to cover Soul.
We should
right away
because
we shouldn't waste any time on that.
It's a very unique situation where we can cover a new movie. It's our first chance to cover like a brand new movie that comes out. That's not a remake. It's not. This is a new movie came out, and really between Christmas and New Year's, I mean 90% of our audience, you guys are gonna be watching Soul because you're gonna be home with the kids around Christmas to New Year's. You're gonna have a couple days off. It's gonna be a brand new movie. We're going to cover that, probably our first show back in the new year. I'm sure we'll cover Soul. So it'll be an interesting episode for us because we won't have the historical context. This will be first go, watching it maybe once, maybe twice to get a feel for it. And it's going to be our initial reaction, and we'll see where it falls with the rest of the audience.
I anticipate sobbing uncontrollably like a baby in front of my family the same way that I did when I watched Onward for the first time. And I'm probably, I actually feel like since this will be the first time I'm watching Onward again since I first saw it, I almost need to mentally prepare myself because I know what's coming.
Yeah, me too. So now seeing it once, I have to watch it again. more critically, take some notes, write some things down. But yeah, it was great. I loved it. As soon as the movie was over, I actually watched it one night with my kids on a night where my wife was out working, and I was alone with them, and I was about to put them to bed. And it was like I don't know if they really understood what was going on. They kind of were following it, obviously. They knew some of the parts. But at the end of the movie, it was just really nice sitting there. Like, they were all quiet. We were just watching the end of the movie together. I got a nice big hug from both of them, put them to bed.
Oh, man.
It was a very emotional experience for
roller
me,
coaster,
because Onward, I had no idea what I was getting into. I really didn't know what was going to happen.
It's a train wreck emotionally, dude. It's heavy.
So now I'm going to watch it again to prepare for the episode next week, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again because I didn't know what to expect. Now that I know what's going to happen, it'll be fun to watch it again and just kind of take it all in. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's the one we were going to do. We had other plans for next week, but I like it. Let's do that one.
Yeah, and it gets into the fantasy genre. I know we talked about sci-fi a lot on this episode. It's going to get into those mythical movies, your Lord of the Rings type genre that we could potentially dive into at length based on the several references to those types of stories throughout the movie. That's the world that it's
wizards.
set. So yeah,
wizards.
So I'm excited for that. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Disney on the Rocks.
See you real soon.